The decision to drop atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki remains one of the most controversial events of the 20th century. This decision was made by President Harry Truman in August 1945. Before the attack, he considered various options, negotiating with the Japanese Emperor Hirohito for peace. But they assumed that it wouldn't work because the emperor refused to surrender. The idea of using atomic bombs against Japan was first proposed by a group of scientists who were working on the Manhattan Project, the top-secret project to develop the world's first nuclear weapons. The scientists believed that the bomb had the potential to bring the war to an end quickly. On 16 July 1945, the atom bomb was tested successfully at a bombing range in the New Mexico. In this video, we will examine how America came to make the decision to drop the bombs on Japan, what mistakes Japan made that contributed to the decision, Japan's role in World War II, and the consequences of the bombing. What's up everyone, and welcome to our YouTube and Facebook channel. If you are watching our channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. And if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up. And now, let me tell you how the decision to drop the atomic bomb on Japan was made, and was it justified. Japan was working on a policy of aggressive expansionism in Asia and the Pacific. Japan saw itself as a rising power and sought to establish a vast empire in the region. However, this policy brought it into conflict with the United States, which saw Japan's actions as a threat to its interest in the region. In response to Japan's expansionist policies, the United States began imposing economic sanctions on Japan, including a ban on oil exports. These sanctions severely impacted Japan's ability to conduct its war efforts and fueled tension between the two nations. To counteract the impact of sanctions, Japan's military leaders devised a plan to launch a surprise attack on United States Pacific Fleet, which was based at Pearl Harbor. The plan was to launch a coordinated attack by air and sea, with the aim of destroying the majority of the American fleet and crippling its ability to respond to Japanese aggression in the region. The attack was carried out on the morning of December 7, 1941, with a total of 353 Japanese aircraft attacking the base. The attack lasted for approximately 2 hours, during which time the Japanese forces inflicted severe damage on American fleet. The attack resulted in the sinking of 4 battleships, the destruction of 188 aircrafts, and the deaths of 2,403 Americans, with another 1,178 injured. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a major turning point in the World War II, as it brought the United States fully into the war. After this, Britain and China declared war against Japan too. Seeing this happen, Nazi Germany and Italy declared a war on the USA 3 days later. By the end of 1941, World War II was in full swing. All major countries had declared war on one another. 2 years later, in 1943, Italy was the first one to surrender. Then, on 30th April 1945, Hitler commits suicide by shooting himself, and Germany surrendered thereafter. Japan was the only one not to surrender. America decided to conduct a full-scale invasion on Japan, sending their military to Japan to overthrow the emperor. So America planned Operation Downfall. The last major war between America and Japan was the Battle of Okinawa, from 1st April 1945 to 22nd June 1945. But the Battle of Okinawa shook America. The Japanese people were not willing to give up. Every person was ready to fight till their last breath. A special military unit was inducted into the Japanese Air Force, named the Kamikaze. These pilots was tasked with crashing their fighter jets into the warship of the enemy. There were continual kamikaze attacks, one suicide bomb after the other. There was no intention of surrendering. This made defeating the Japanese forces really difficult. Eventually, America won this battle, but at a huge cost. 12,000 American soldiers were killed. More than 50,000 were injured. On the other hand, 110,000 Japanese soldiers were killed. People living in Okinawa are known as Okinawans. In this battle, more than 100,000 Okinawans were killed. America and the Allies knew that they would have to use some other way to force Japan to surrender. 26 July 1945, at Potsdam Declaration, the presidents of the US and China and the Prime Minister of Great Britain came together to demand Japan's unconditional surrender. They warned that in case Japan doesn't surrender, it would result in prompt and utter destruction. The Japanese emperor might have been ready to surrender if he was assured that he could continue to be in power in the occupied territories. But America wanted unconditional surrender. On 29 July 1945, Japan rejected the Potsdam Declaration. After this, on 3 August, US President Harry Truman authorized the atom bomb being dropped on Japan. 6 August 1945, Boeing B-29 aircraft flew over the city of Hiroshima. This aircraft was carrying the little boy atom bomb. At 8:15, this bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, and America became the first and only country in the world to use nuclear weapons. The explosion caused a blinding flash of light followed by a blast wave that travels at a speed of over 1,000 miles per hour. It is estimated that between 70,000 and 80,000 people died in the immediate aftermath of the attack. 70% of the buildings in the Hiroshima was wiped out. Sky was covered in black toxic fumes. After this bomb blast, it is said the fanatics in the Japanese military refused to even conduct a meeting. To them, this was insignificant and there was no need to surrender. In response, 3 days later, on 9 August 1945, America dropped another atom bomb, this time on Nagasaki. Around 11 a.m., another Boeing B-29 aircraft flew over Nagasaki carrying an even more powerful bomb, the Fat Man. The mushroom cloud formed by this bomb blast was much bigger. It killed 40,000 people immediately, and the city was thoroughly destroyed. In total, in these two bombings, 200,000 people were killed. 95% of these people were actually civilians. After this, the Japanese Supreme Council finally met to discuss the surrender. Some people were finally scared that America would continue bombing the cities if they do not surrender. But many members of the council were still completely against the surrender. When the council voted on the surrender, the result was tied at 3-3. The Japanese emperor were asked to be the tiebreaker, and finally, Emperor Hirohito agreed to surrender. The atom bombs were not the only reason for the surrender. The region of Manchuria in North China that was already occupied by Japan. A few hours before the bombing in Nagasaki, the Soviet Union declared war there and occupied this area. On one hand, the USA was bombing their cities. On the other hand, the Soviet Union was also attacking them. Additionally, in their occupied territories in Japan and Southeast Asia, people were getting increasingly infuriated. These are the reasons why Emperor Hirohito finally decided to surrender. On 15 August 1945, after this surrender, the Second World War was officially over. About 7 years later, a new constitution was adopted in Japan. Democracy was established, and the status of Japanese emperor continued as a figurehead, but without any powers. The total cost of the destruction in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was $970 million. The biggest question that arises is whether the United States was justified in dropping the atomic bomb, resulting in the deaths of 200,000 individuals. The issue of the morality of this decision remains a complex and contentious one even today. Former US President Harry Truman did not express any remorse or apologize for the bombings, because he, among the many other US diplomats and military officials, believed that the bombing were a necessity. America estimated that it would take at least 10 years and the lives of 1 million soldiers if they continued trying to fight the Japanese army on the ground. So they had no other option. But many critics argue that America had several other options. First and foremost, it is said that if they had to force the Japanese military to surrender, why would they bomb cities with 95% civilians? Some experts also argue that the bomb were not the real reason behind Japan's surrender. The invasion by the Soviet Union was the real reason. Final argument here is the moral dilemma. Who gave the US president the right to choose to kill 200,000 people over the potential death of 1 million US soldiers? And that's it for today's episode of Let Me Tell You. I hope you find our videos informative and interesting. Let us know about your thoughts in the comments below. We value your feedback and want to hear your thoughts on this topic. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notification so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Let Me Tell You.